Let's take a look at using Camera Raw to sharpen our image. Now, one of the first things that we have to realize when we're going into Camera Raw to sharpen an image is that it has to be a raw image. And I can see here that this is a Photoshop document. It's not a raw image. So let's find a raw image. I can go over here and find this blimp, and let's go ahead and open that in Camera Raw. Now, I'm not going to be concerned with anything else in here. I'm just going to go with the automatic settings. But I'm going to go over to the Detail tab that you can see here. And here you can see that the default sharpness is set at 25 with no luminance smoothing and a little bit of color noise reduction. Well, let's take a look at all three of those sliders and see what they do for us. The first thing that we want to do is we want to go in here and get the image up to 100% so that we're looking at the actual pixels. And the way that we do that is, the easiest way to do it is just double click on the zoom tool up here in the upper left hand corner. The zoom tool is the one that looks like a little magnifying glass. And we can see that we have our image here, and it's reasonably sharp as it stands. But let's talk about what is sharpness and what does sharpness do for us. What does any of the sharpening functions do for us? Basically, what they do is enhance the contrast at edges so that when you have an edge with a border between a light and a dark area, the dark area gets darker, the light area gets a little lighter, so that it's apparently sharper. It's not actually sharper because you can only sharpen the image as much as your lens and your CCD will work on it. But what we're going to do here is we're going to use the sharpness control to enhance the apparent sharpness of the image. Okay, now you notice here that the sharpness is set as a default at 25. I can bring that down to 0, and you can see that it makes it a little softer, not a lot softer, and I can take it all the way up to 100%. And here you can see what I was talking about. If you look at this edge, let's enlarge this just a little bit more, up to 200%. As I slide my sharpness towards 0, you can see that the edge right here between the light and dark areas is smoother. And as I increase the sharpness, first of all, it gives me a little more apparent sharpness, and it gets to a point out here where I start getting some lightness, some banding around here. And I want to stop my sharpening before I get to that point. Okay, there. Now we can smooth that out a little bit because you can see that there are some little pixely type things sitting inside of the color here. And this is noise, and noise comes up in both luminance and in color. So let's see what we can do by increasing our luminance smoothing, and you can see that that smooths that noise out right away. So let's cut this back just a little bit, and also that makes the image just a little bit softer. Now sometimes if you have some other artifacts you can reduce it by increasing the color noise reduction. So let's take this image back down where we can see everything, and we'll use our double click the hand tool to get it back down to 100%. And you can see that the image is a bit sharper and it looks very nice. So we can do some sharpening within Camera Raw. But the question is, do we want to do our sharpening there? Well, let's take a look at another image. This image we could probably get away with doing some sharpening in Camera Raw and then doing our final sharpening in Photoshop. Now remember, you usually, and the rule is, and rules are meant to be broken, but the rule is that you do your sharpening last, after you've sized your image, after you've got your colors correct, after you've done all the retouching that you want to do. Then you sharpen the image immediately prior to printing. But let's look at another image here. I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to go up to this headshot. Let's double click that and open that in Camera Raw, and then let's bring it up to 100%. And what I'm going to look at here, let's bring this down, and let's look at the eyes and some of the detail on the face. Well, let's go over here. Now this one I had set for 0 sharpness within Camera Raw. But let's go ahead and increase our sharpness here. And you can see that the eyes get a little bit sharper, but also the details in the face get sharper. And with a portrait shot, especially a shot of a woman, you really don't want to have a lot of texture in the skin. And the other thing that happens here is as I get more toward 100% sharpness, let's just go over here and look at the eye here. You can see that I've got some specular highlights. And these specular highlights start getting some lines around them, because remember, what the sharpness does, it increases the contrast at edges, at borders. So what we need to do here, as you can see, is if I bring the sharpness back down, those lines begin to disappear, but my image just isn't that sharp anymore. And again, I can come over and I can do some softening here with the color noise reduction and with the luminance smoothing, and use that in conjunction with some sharpness, but it's still not satisfactory. So what we're going to see here is that we are going to be able to go back into this image, and we'll do it at a later time, and look at some other techniques that will really sharpen this image up and give us something to really look good. So for right now, if you want to sharpen in Camera Raw, you can do that, but you really have to pick and choose the images that you want to sharpen within Camera Raw.